Howdy, it's tubalcain again, and this is Mystery Tools number 33B, the answer. Now, if you haven't watched 33A, go ahead and do that first so that you can have the fun of it. But I had a lot of good answers here, some correct, some funny. So go through the comments and look at the comments and answers, because you might get a chuckle out of that. All right, the first item. And a lot of people guessed on this, and I really don't know, but apparently it is a can opener for large cans, and somebody said even for 55-gallon drums, but it wouldn't seem to me that it has the leverage needed for a 55-gallon drum, so I'm not really buying that. The thing's only 8 inches long, but possibly for institutional type cans. And remember that this came to me from, well, who was it? Gary Ashley. And thank you, Gary. And he taped off or masked off the trademarks and the names on it, so I don't have that to show you, but there it is, a can opener. That was item number 1. And then right away to number 2, and I can't believe how many people had this correct. These are hangers to be used in a coal mine, an underground coal mine or some kind of mine. And it would be nailed to the wall or held onto something else, I don't know what all. And then the electrical wires draped through this, because they're, they got a complete wiring system in there for the lights and all the equipment. And supposedly these were made in a sheltered workshop by handicapped people, so really a nice job that they made on these. And I bet that thousands of these got stolen from the job because they would be so handy to have around the shop or the house, and they're pretty looking too. So those are hangers for wires, and it surprised me that so many people knew what that was. I surely didn't, so there's just a lot of people that are familiar with mining, I guess. So that was an interesting item, and thank you, Gary, for sending those in. The next item was sent in to me by Mark Brozak, and he comes from Madison, Ohio. So thank you, Mark, for this. And quite a few people had guessed this correctly, and it's an Arland cutter, and it's a laminate trimmer for mica countertops. So to make those nice flush corners and so on, this was used. It's totally obsolete, and it would put out of business, or maybe they're still in business. It was made obsolete by routers that have the little carbide trimmers with a ball bearing. So that's what they used before. That and a file and sandpaper, I suppose, and it had 2 little carbide cutters. Arland Industries out of Vancouver. There's the patent number. Okay. And he sent me these rags here, shop rags, so I can never get enough rags around the shop, and I bet you can either. Remember this item sent in by Scott Savage. Thank you, Scott. Just about everybody knew what this was, and I figured they would. And this is used by a cobbler or a shoe repairman, but I believe they were even used in a store where they sold shoes, because there used to be a salesman that would help fit you. But the purpose of this was to make a little extra room in your leather shoes for your bunions or corns. Many people don't realize this, but many shoes were made of a material from animal skins. It was called leather. So they took this leather was supple. Now, you can't do this with a canvas tennis shoe, but in this pair of shoes, which is not leather, let's just say you were rubbing right here and it hurt like crazy. You'd stick that in the shoe like this, and form it. Possibly wetting the leather would help, I don't know. So you get this done by, maybe foot doctors use these too. I bet they did. So there would have been a lot of customers for this. I don't know the exact name for it. and probably a lot of different companies made it. That's why there's such a great reach right here, so they can get inside the shoe or the boot. So that's pretty nifty, but it wasn't too much of a mystery, really. Thanks, Scott. The next item I thought was so interesting, and a lot of people knew what this was. It's a Meter-matic, and these were most often seen in motels for that annoying vibrating bed that you just couldn't wait until the time ran out because it was so bad. And you put a quarter in here. Now I took this apart, and it didn't work, and I finally got the motor freed up, so I'm playing around with it, and I might put that on what makes it work. And really the whole idea here, I wanted to originally do a video on how coin mechanisms work. Remember, the quarter came with it, 1965. But the coin mechanism on this is just so incredibly simple that you know, it isn't worth showing, but the rest of the timer is. But apparently they made this in many versions. Some people guessed that this was off the dime store horse or other useless little toy they had out in front of the store. At Ben Franklin's, when I was a kid, there was a little horse, and it looked like this, but it wouldn't have had the clock, because you didn't know when it was going to run out. And this can be set for many hours. The doggone little horse for the children, you know, what did that last? 30 seconds for a nickel or a dime when I was a kid, and I didn't have a nickel or a dime, and if I did, I would have spent it on candy, not a stupid little horse. But so the Meter-matic really, though, as far as I can tell, besides the beds, was used to sell, to sell. You could buy a refrigerator, you could buy a television and various other appliances. You didn't have any money back then, and they hadn't come up with the rent to pay or pay to rent or whatever these scams are. You know, the one where you would pay $2,500 for a $500 TV. Yeah, that one. But instead back then, in order to use the TV, you would feed it quarters. And the company would come in once a month or so and collect the coins out of here. Some of them had a separate coin box with a separate lock, and that's how, then you got a receipt, and that's how you paid off your refrigerator or your TV back when credit was not readily available. And this is how you did it. So that was pretty clever. This one is dated 1952. I found a date, 1952, but we all recognize this little box. It also looks like an Meter-matic box, if you remember Meter-matic timers. It's got the hammer tone beige finish. So that's what a Meter-matic is, and it probably had many other uses. And if you want to, in the comments, put down some other thoughts on where you saw these Meter-matics used. So it wasn't just in a motel. Again, in a motel, I don't remember there being a clock. I just remember it going off, and us kids fighting over who got to be on the bed or begging Dad for a quarter, or maybe it cost less back then. But since the motel was only $6 for the whole family, a quarter was really quite a bit of money for this kind of foolishness. All right, I talked too long on the Meter-matic. You know, I was ranting there, and I think the reason is I just feel that poor people that couldn't afford a TV, and we still got people that can't afford things, so they have these rent-to-own stores, and that is just a total scam. And often people don't even know how badly they're being cheated, and that saddens me greatly. Okay, rant, holy mackerel. So here's the final item, and I took that picture at my buddy Gary's house, who repairs clocks and watches, and this is a jeweler's tool, or a clockmaker, watchmaker, repairman tool that would remove the hands from a watch or a clock. There's the working end. And you pinched that, and of course this is a puller. It's a gear puller, is what it is. Tiny, tiny gear puller, but used for hands. So, all right, that completes the six items that were in Mystery Tools number 33 33B. Hope you enjoyed it. Be sure and watch some of the older episodes too that are languishing. So this is tubalcain saying so long for now.